And we're live. Welcome to Rad's Life, episode 2002. I don't know. For some reason, people like to tell you what episode it is. I have no idea. All I know is I've been doing this for 2 years straight. So it's got to be at least 365, 365. I don't know. 700 something. But I take days off, so maybe it's like episode 700 or something. Right? I don't know. Anyway, subscribe if you haven't already. Winston has subscribed. His ghost. Punch the like button, like you're punching the enemy in the Boer War, like he did, and tap the bell for notifications so you don't miss out on one exciting video, one stupid ass video. No, I should stop saying that. When I was in my last band, I used to, and we'd get interviewed by local papers and stuff like that. I always say we suck. And it was a threesome, right? Three-piece rather. Threesome. Freudian slip. And our guitarist, singer guy would get pissed when I would say we suck. But we sort of did until we didn't. Anyway, Winston Churchill. I'm not even going to pretend to do like the voice he had or whatever. But we all know Winston. See, this is something you're not going to get at any other YouTube station devoted to writing and publishing and writer's life and all that. You're going to get a little history lesson. Everybody knows Winston Churchill is like the statesman, the guy who led England at its most dire moment, its most darkest moment, who gave all those who used the radio to his advantage and gave all those motivational speeches like, we shall fight them on the beaches, we shall fight them in the air, we shall fight them in the kitchens. I don't know if that was in the speech. He might have edited that one out, but and the other one, like, this isn't the end of the beginning, it's a begin. No, this isn't the beginning of the end, it's the end of the beginning. Excellent stuff there. But he, even though he was the son of a lord, and his mother was an American. She was born in Brooklyn, and she was like a radical lefty, and she even had a tattoo of a snake on her wrist. Like, I don't know, people did shit like that back in the late 19th century. They do it now all the time, but she had like a, like this, and she'd go to suffragette meetings and stuff like that. Anyway, Churchill's father was all over her. Anyway, but Churchill has no money, even though he probably went to the best. They call them public schools over there. I don't know why, but he went to the best, what over here we call private schools and all that sort of stuff, just because it was probably given to him, because he had statehood. He was the son of a lord, which made him something, I guess. But they were broke. They had no income, zero, other than what they subsisted off the state. So Winston was a talented, young, adventurous guy, and he went off to the Boer War when he was 17 in 1891 to become a war correspondent. And I've read some of his dispatches. They're very interesting, very dramatic. Writing back then was, very dramatic. He's probably getting paid by the word. A lot of it's long form. I'm sure he's getting paid by the word. Dickens survived by getting paid by the word. That's why I don't read Dickens, because it's long and overblown, long-winded. But he gets captured during the Boer War, and he's like, "Hey, look at, I'm just a reporter. I get to go." And they're like, "Fuck you. We're locking you up because we've never captured the son of a lord before." So they put him in prison, right? And he's like, "I don't know about you guys, but I'm getting out." And they're like, oh, bloody hell. And he does. He hops the fence and he runs, makes a run for it when they're shooting at him. Hops a bunch of freight trains and he ends up back in English hands. And so, like, daring escape. I love that. That's a great story. I would like to think I would have done the same thing. Hopefully, right? But he even after that, he made his living as a freelance writer, as a journalist, as a book writer. But here's the thing: even though he was a lord and all this sort of stuff, he was flat broke all the time, to the point where he had to like call friends and like, can you loan me, £100 or whatever, 100 quid, whatever the heck, whatever. And by the time he subsisted on mostly like loans and bank loans and gifts and stuff like this, and very expensive tastes. He'd order champagne by the crate. He'd have lavish dinner parties. He bought himself silk underwear. Mm-hmm. I guess the cotton stuff wasn't good enough for him. And, the best clothes, like, he was just like, I guess what they call at the time, like a dandy, right? He would switch parties at will to suit, like whoever would give him the biggest pay. I guess today he'd be kind of considered like sort of like a Biden, like he would, if you believe that Biden has actually been on the take, like this guy was on the take, like blatantly on the take. Like, I need money, so maybe back then it was more legal. I don't know. I do not know. But by the time World War II broke out, in the 39, 40, it was like, all this ties into yesterday's video, by the way. Again, it was us, and I'll bring that word up again. It was serendipity for him because he was in the right place at the right time. They chose him to lead England through this hellish time, and it was through the Blitz. They were getting bombed every night by the Germans, and he at the time owed the equivalent of almost $4 million in back taxes, bank loans. He couldn't even pay the interest on the bank loans, loans to friends, family. You name it. This guy was writing bad paper. Like he probably should have been in jail, to be honest. But when he became prime minister, and also I can't believe I'm skipping this. He had signed a lucrative publishing deal for a book or two with some English publisher or whatever, and he never wrote it, but he spent the advance. I like this guy already. But anyway, then the war comes around and they're like, you're prime minister. And he's like, oh, okay, good. Make sure I don't have to pay my bills for a while. And so he was like forgiven having to pay the bills for a while. But he remained broke throughout the majority of the war. And then when the war ended, he got another book deal for his memoirs that was worth around $3.5 million in today's money. So like he was, made his way back up again, but he probably spent that too. And, I'm sure he was the type that just figured, you know what, when I die, I'm going to leave debt. I'm going to die with debt. Who cares? But he lived to be 90. That's a ripe old age for a guy born in 1874. Anyway, interesting character. He's, like, when we think of Winston Churchill, we just think of this almost like, this enigma, this figure that's almost fictional, this larger than life character. But he was a 5'6" or 7" broke man, and he was a freelance writer, just like you and I. If you happen to be a writer, you might be an accountant, a boring accountant. Anyway, I just like stories like that. He went through the same bullshit that we go through sometimes, and like he would stay up nights, like, how am I going to pay this off? Is somebody going to come after me? And we've all been there, right? And then there were times he had tons of money. So one other interesting thing about Winston Churchill, and then I'll let you go. Back when he was in like prep school or whatever you want to call it back then, he predicted, he's like, we don't know war here in England, not since the Napoleonic Wars or something like that. And he said, but there's going to come, in the new century, there's going to come great wars fought with new inventions that you would never even imagine. And there's going to be tons of death. And then there's going to be a second war that's going to be even worse with even newer inventions. And I'm going to lead us all to victory. And they were all like, you are whacked. But he had this little thing where he could tell the future. Believe it or don't believe it. It's up to you. All right, that's my little spiel on Winston Churchill. See, you get special stuff here. All right, who's this? Big Philly. Darkly comic sci-fi story. Churchill's laptop. Oh, I like it. Churchill was the man. They don't make him like that anymore. No, they don't. That's for sure. That's for sure. I'm broke all the time too, says Big Philly. 31 until payday this Thursday. Oh, okay. Call me Churchill 2.0. He's got 31 cents until Tuesday. Well, if it makes you feel any better, aside from my investments, I'm down. I think I have like $150 till Thursday. I just don't like to break into money investments. Wayne, I don't think Churchill worried about his debts. No, I don't think so either. I don't. Although the story, Wayne, the article I read by the Atlantic said that he did have worries about it at times. But I think in the general scheme of things, it wasn't his top priority, or else he would have done something about it, right? He wouldn't have kept borrowing, or whatever. So the war came along and he was like, so. All right, you guys. Thanks for chiming in, everybody. And God willing, I will talk to you tomorrow. Ciao, ciao.